When you join ASUG, you'll never face an SAP challenge alone again. We connect our members to exclusive educational opportunities and a community of like-minded peers, so you can get the most value from your SAP investment. Get smart fast and learn from the best. Stay on the leading edge of SAP practices and get access to the latest research, insights, and unbiased editorial and interviews from industry experts and your peers. Expand your network. ASUG makes up the biggest, most diverse, and most engaged SAP user group in the world. Any question or challenge you have, there's someone who's seen it before. Connect with a network of 130,000 plus SAP savvy professionals to solve complex business challenges, work smarter, and expand your SAP skills. Get set to lead. Improve your SAP expertise by collaborating with peers to solve business challenges and find innovative solutions. With 38 regional chapters, you and your teams can connect and meet with other SAP professionals and take advantage of dozens of speaking and leadership opportunities throughout the year where you can share your ideas. Become a leader in the ASUG community by leading a local chapter, joining our executive exchange, and participating in one of our 13 and growing ASUG Alliance groups, or make connections and learn at ASUG events. Keep learning, connecting, and growing with ASUG.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today, and welcome to Tired of Outdated SAP Mobile Tools? See what's next. Smarter, faster, offline capable. I'm Heather Lima, and I'm a content producer here at ASUG. Today's webcast will be recorded, and tomorrow you'll receive a post-event email with a link to the on-demand recording of this webcast. If you want to watch it again, please go ahead, or if you want to pass it on to your colleagues, please do that as well. You'll also see a survey pop up at the end of this webcast. Please take a moment to take that 2-question survey. If you have any questions at all, please go ahead and enter them in that Q&A box. It's over to your left. And anything that we don't get to on the webcast, we will make sure that we answer offline. Now, I'll hand off the webcast to our speakers, Damian Peterson and Steve Green with Havensight Consulting Group, and Andres Boyosa with Zebra Technologies. Damian, take it away.
Let me start with a simple question. Are you still wrestling with outdated SAP mobile tools? You know, the ones that were cool back when flip phones were a flex. You know, when Blockbuster was still hiring. Today, there's too many warehouse and supply chain teams stuck with clunky, slow tools, never meant for today's mobile workforce. They don't scan well, they don't work offline, and they're definitely not winning any UX awards. At Havensight, we think it's time to retire these digital dinosaurs. What's next? Smarter, faster, and fully offline capable mobile apps designed for mobile devices like Zebra, who's here with us today, tailored to your SAP environment, and built for the folks actually doing the work, not for the folks building PowerPoints about the work. So let's take a look at what the future can look like. So here's a snapshot of what we're going to cover today. I'll start with a brief intro of our speakers, as well as answer who is Havensight and how we fit into the SAP mobile landscape. From there, we'll build the business case, right? Looking at real data around ROI, operational coverage around both finished goods and MRO, and one of the most overlooked risks in inventory operations, institutional knowledge loss. Next, we'll share some powerful insights from Zebra Technologies' Global Warehouse Vision Study. And that comes from input from 1,700 warehouse and supply chain leaders. And that's going to give us a macro view of where industry is headed and what modernization really looks like. Then we'll dive into how Havensight delivers value with our mobile inventory templates, focusing on how we simplify SAP mobile adoption, reduce training time, and improve data accuracy right at the point of performance. And finally, Steve's going to wrap up with a look at the business impact of mobile inventory applications and open it up for discussion. We've got a quick poll coming up, so keep an eye out for that. There's 4 or 5 polls throughout this webcast today. It helps us tailor our talk track to your responses if you fill it out, so thanks for doing so. I'm going to wait here a moment to give everybody a chance to click their options. All right. All right, thanks for those who filled it out. I appreciate it. So my name is Damian Peterson, and I lead sales here at Havensight. And my goal is to help SAP customers just like you bring their digital capabilities to the edge. Joining me, Steve Green, president of Havensight. Steve previously led SAP's global mobility services team. He brings a wealth of experience, despite that full head of hair, in the manufacturing and regulated industries. He's worked with a wide range of customers, and his focus is always on aligning technology with operational and compliance goals. We're thrilled to have Andres Boloso here from Zebra. Andres is a seasoned global supply chain exec. He's led many major initiatives to optimize distribution and logistics, operating in North America, LATAM, and Europe. And he brings an operator's point of view to warehouse modernization. He's a strong advocate for combining strategy and measurable results. We're excited to share our insights and hear from you as well today. So if you're wondering how we became SAP's go-to mobility partner, right? So here's our story. We're a consulting firm focused entirely on SAP supply chain and mobility. But did you know our founder was the original mind behind Cyclo, the company that built the first SAP mobile work order apps? Rich Padula launched Cyclo back in the mid-90s, building mobile apps for Maximo customers before enterprise mobility was even a thing, right? And what made Cyclo stand out was its enterprise-grade offline capability. Users could go fully offline for days, even weeks. And at that time, nobody could match that. Cyclo became the dominant mobility platform for Maximo, capturing 70% market share. And in 2005, Rich saw an opportunity to bring that same innovation to SAP. He began building a mobile solution for SAP customers, and he brought in Steve Green, who's on the call with us today, to help lead the effort. And together, they built Cyclo's SAP mobility portfolio, supporting field and warehouse operations with the same offline-first philosophy and intuitive UX. And their success soon caught the attention of SAP. And in 2012, SAP acquires Cyclo, not just for the software, but for the expertise. Our team helped architect some of SAP's early mobile solutions, like Work Manager, which became SAP's best-selling mobile application. After serving as SAP's Chief Mobility Officer for a few years, and with SAP support, Rich, as well as Steve and others, left SAP and launched Havensight to continue what they started. And today, we help SAP customers modernize mobile apps with the same proven team and with the same relentless focus on operational impact and user adoption. Let's take a quick look at some of the companies that trust us today. And we're proud to be a trusted advisor and partner to a diverse group of industry leaders, from global manufacturers to utility companies, energy companies, life sciences, public sector. You know what these customers have in common? they operate in complex, high stakes environments where reliability, mobility, and efficiency are critical. And that's exactly where we thrive. But let's not just talk about logos, right? What we really want to talk about is what the value companies are seeing in mobile. So let's transition here. Let's make that business case. What's the opportunity? What happens when you actually modernize data collection? Well, these numbers speak for themselves. This data makes a case pretty clearly. In a study conducted across 6 major industries, 100%, every single respondent reported achieving payback within a year. like wow, that's a rare level of consistency. And it speaks to how tangible the returns really are. Nearly all respondents, 97%, agreed and said that task completion became faster. 92% saw clear economic benefits of a result of automating. But maybe what is the most telling opportunity is that 92% of respondents said that they're going to expand into new areas because once they saw results, they wanted more. By the way, how good is this data? This is a comprehensive study conducted across, as we said, 6 major industries. The data comes from 4 separate studies: AMR, Gartner, the Meta Group, Venture, and it shows that automating data collection, feeding real-time info into ERP systems, dramatically boosts your ERP ROI. So where does this exactly apply in SAP? Let's talk about finished goods and MRO. When most people think about SAP inventory solutions, they often picture finished goods in large distribution centers. And yep, that's a big part of the story. But the same challenges, the same opportunities exist in MRO environments. Inventory for maintenance, repair, and operations is just as critical, especially in manufacturing, energy, and utility sectors. These items, they may not be customer facing, but when they're missing, and it's annoying, operations grind to a halt. But here's what's powerful. You don't need separate tools or disconnected processes. Whether you're managing finished goods or MRO, it doesn't matter. Our solution handles both. The same platform, consistent UX, fully integrated with SAP. So whether you're picking customer orders or issuing parts to a work order, you're using one solution that's fast, intuitive, and built for the way your teams actually work. Now let's talk about one of the biggest hidden risks across both finished goods and MRO inventory: institutional knowledge loss. In many operations, inventory accuracy and efficiency are still heavily dependent on human knowledge. Tribal knowledge, right? For finished goods, that might mean relying on your experienced workers, right, to manage the manual processes, prioritizing orders, and train new hires by shadowing, right? But in MRO, the tribal knowledge is even worse. Critical parts are scattered throughout the facility. Only a few people know where to find them or what parts are truly critical. And that kind of setup works until someone retires, right? Or wins the lottery, right? Suddenly, what was once, this is just how we do it, becomes a gap, one that impacts order fulfillment, maintenance response time, and overall productivity. This is where mobile solutions can play a huge role, right? Not just in capturing data, but in embedding knowledge directly into the workflow. So it's available to everyone, not just the veterans. And when it comes to enabling that modern experience, Zebra is the market leader here. Andres Bulosa is going to speak next. I want to pause on this slide for a moment. If you're not overly familiar with Zebra Technologies, they're the recognized leader across multiple key categories in this space. #1 in rugged mobile computing, #1 in data capture, and yes, #1 in barcode printing and RFID too. And this reflects their deep experience supporting complex supply chain and warehouse operations around the world. And on that note, I'd like to introduce Andres Bulosa.
Thank you, Damien. Truly appreciate the opportunity. And I will start by saying that for Zebra, it is paramount to get a very good understanding of our customers. And we believe that the warehouse vision story that I'm going to talk about is an insightful mechanism to understand trends, challenges, and opportunities that are shaping the future of warehousing. As you can see on the slide, this is a significant effort. The study was conducted in North America, Europe, APAC, and Latin America, so truly global. And it involved 1,700 respondents. It's important to mention that this number includes not only decision makers from warehouse operators, supply chain IT, and automation executives, but also warehouse workers. And I believe this makes this study unique. Clearly, warehouses today are a critical part of supply chain, and they obviously need to adapt to rising customer demands and shifting priorities. For this reason, I don't think it's surprising to see that the majority of warehouse leaders, 70% of them, have a mandate to modernize their operations. And 87% of them, as we can see at the bottom of the first column, believe that technology is essential to fulfill this mandate. Now, if we look at the third column, boosting performance, these decision makers believe that this modernization will help them mitigate errors, enhance the decision-making process with more data-driven smart decisions, and improve visibility, specifically with supplier management. If we look at the second column, that's more specific to workers, we'll see that almost 3/4 of them report spending too much time on tasks that could be automated, which demonstrates that workers don't want to do tedious, repetitive work. And 70% of them are actually concerned with injuries. And the largest number that we can see here on the slide is that 89% of them actually feel more value when they are provided with technology. I think another valuable insight is that, as we can see here on the right, is that more than 80% of both workers and decision makers see technology adoption as a key to meeting productivity goals. So obviously, as warehouses are under pressure to deliver faster, more accurately, and often with fewer resources, it's clear that technology is becoming a key enabler of productivity and efficiency. Operators in general see, as we can see here, and not surprisingly, they see AI in general, and not only Gen AI, but they see AI as solutions like machine learning and predictive analytics. They see this as an option to boost their performance. And actually, we're going to see a little bit more specific numbers on the next slide. I think you can see here that it's also stressed the relevance, the importance of foundational tools like inventory and asset visibility to maintain strong operations. And I would say lastly, I think on the last bullet point, but extremely relevant considering today's environment, technology integration is with business goals seen as critical to foster resiliency and adaptability. So embracing technology. I think as in general, we see that the most relevant insight of this story is that the relationship between workers and technology is evolving. I don't think workers see technology or automation as a threat anymore. In fact, more than 3/4 of workers, as we can see on the right, now prefer employers who provide them with modern devices over those that have outdated or no devices. And as you can see, aligned a little bit with the expectation from decision makers, workers see technology as essential for safety, accuracy, and productivity. And we also see the shift to more modern devices like wearables, which obviously helps workers perform hands-free tasks, and the use of AMRs or cobots that help workers simplify tasks and also reduce physical strain. Going back to that point of safety as being top of mind. We know that attracting, retaining, and engaging skilled workers continue to be a concern for warehouse leaders. But the good news for these leaders is that investing in modern technology could help them address this issue, as it is proved by this study that technology boosts workers' engagement and helps attract talent. As we can see here on the slide, an impressive 90% of associates agree that augmenting labor with technology is the most effective way to introduce automation into operations. So actually becomes a bridge. This approach enhances workflows while empowering the workforce rather than replacing it. Again, going back to workers really feel much more comfortable with technology, and they actually want technology and believe by augmenting them and empowering them, this becomes a bridge to bring in automation into the warehouse. Decision makers also prioritize collaboration, with 91% involving associates in decisions around automating workflows. I actually believe this is a very important number, one that actually surprised me, but I was glad to see it was a really high number, because I believe workers should be involved whenever workflows, potential automation of workflows are assessed. The ones that are performing the tasks are the ones that provide a lot of insight to ensure that the process is reviewed properly. What I would say on the slide, we can see a consensus here between workers and decision makers, because in both cases, and those are very high numbers, in both cases, they believe that by implementing warehouse technologies, robotics, and devices, this helps attract and retain workers. Interesting enough, actually, workers believe even more than decision makers, or more than those that invest in technology. They actually believe that this actually helps the warehouse more. This is actually interesting to see workers actually believe more than decision makers on this. As you can see here at the bottom, what we can see in the study is that this was actually not a geographic trend. This was not necessarily something that we're seeing more in one region or geography than others. This is actually a global trend, so we can see by the high numbers across the 4 regions that were a part of the study. So clearly, there's as we mentioned, there's a mandate of modernizing warehouse, and this is not to say that obviously there's still challenges for accelerating this warehouse modernization. And this still remains significant. Obviously, we can see here on the right, determining our ROI for new technology is considered actually the biggest barrier for implementing technology in the warehouse. Defining, how am I going to service and support my new technology? It's actually paired with how I'm going to manage my new technology going forward. It's paired there as number 2 barrier for implementing technology. And in number 3, we can see either replacing or integrating with legacy systems. That's obviously something that could be a concern, could be a barrier. And the difficulty of deploying and scaling new technology. So obviously, these are challenges that obviously, warehouse leaders are aware, and that obviously they continue to be a challenge for technology. But it's important to mention that through collaboration and through a strategic focus, these barriers certainly can be overcome. As we mentioned, I think one of the biggest insights of the story is that leaders can help address their biggest concern around skilled workers, labor supply, being able to attract, retain, and engage skilled workers by investing in technology if they can overcome these barriers. So I just want to thank you for your time, and now I'll turn it over to Steve Green from Heavenside. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you, Andres, and thank you all for joining us this afternoon or this morning, depending on where you're at. So I'm going to jump into my piece here in a minute. We'll get into our solution. We'll talk about some use cases for finished goods and MRO inventory that Damien mentioned at the onset. But before that, we're going to do about a 10-minute video that Scott from our team recorded. He goes through some EWM transactions in the SAP ecosystem using our solution. It'll kind of give you a flavor for what's out there, how it works, and it will kind of set up what I'm going to go through next. So I'll go ahead and get that started, and I'll catch you in a couple minutes here.
This is a quick video demonstration of the Havensight MIT templates for EWM. I'll be performing just a quick receiving and put away transaction on the Zebra TC73 device that's connected to my desktop here. So first thing I'll do with the application is log in and authenticate. And from here, I have the list of menu options that are available. There are options here for IM, for WM, and for EWM. And for this demonstration, we'll focus on the EWM receiving and put away process. So what I have available to me is the tiles that I'm authorized for via SAP authorization objects that have been granted my profile. I can see the system that I'm connected to. That is the Havensight HS4 system that has EWM implemented, and then I've got a connectivity to that system. And then using my profile, I can see that I'm assigned to plant 1710 and a storage location, warehouse, and storage type. So to start the transaction, I just need to tap into the PO receiving tile, and here I'm presented with a search screen. And most of the transactions within the MIT application start with the search screen, which retrieves a document from the SAP side. And in this case, I'm looking for open purchase orders. The most straightforward process to go through here is if I've got an inbound purchase order that has a packing slip, maybe it has my purchase order number barcoded on it, then I can scan that PO number. And I've got some barcodes on the screen here that I'll just be using to scan with. So I've got one PO queued up here, and I'll just scan that PO number and into the PO field, do a search, and retrieve that from S4. Now I've got my PO listed here. If I had done a more open search and had multiple POs listed, I'd have them all shown here, the number of items, the date, expected delivery date on those. The supplier is also listed here as well. So tapping into that PO, I can see the one item that is on the purchase order. I can see that it's been received a few times already. So I started with an order quantity of 100. I've got 97 still pending out there, and my current receiving process, I haven't specified any yet, but we'll be doing that here. This particular PO does not have an inbound delivery. If it did, this would be checked, and I would be able to receive against the inbound delivery versus just the straight purchase order. It's also not a serialized material, so I can receive without scanning any serial numbers on this particular item. So tapping into this material, I get into the receiving screen, and here I can specify things such as the document date that we're posting as, the storage location I'm receiving into, the movement type that I'm receiving with. So this is just a 101 movement type, standard goods receipt, and the quantity that I'm receiving. So here I'll go ahead and modify that quantity, and let's just say I got in 10 this time. And other fields on the screen are not required, but optional, that could be used and integrated into your SAP environment. That is the order complete flag to say that this line item is complete, the number of labels that would kick off a print process that would indicate potentially the warehouse task barcoded on that to facilitate the put away. So I could put that label on the materials and then have a put away person come up and scan the task number to start the put away process. Unloading point, recipient, stock type, etc. So these are all standard SAP fields and functions that you would have on a standard inbound PO receipt. So I'll click save there, and that saves that receipt quantity locally. And now I can see my outstanding quantity has been decreased by 10. And at this point, I simply just have to hit the post button, and that would allow me to post this this receipt and start the process of locating that material into the warehouse and queue up the warehouse order and warehouse task so that I can complete the put away. So I'll hit post on that. Here I've got the ability to enter some optional header text here. So this is, again, standard material document fields. So, if I had some header text I wanted to enter here, so we'll just do PO example here, a delivery note, a bill of lading number, right, that I might want to enter. Okay, so, kind of standard fields there. At that point, it is transacting over to SAP and creating a material document number. This one was 500001264 that was created. I don't necessarily need to note that down because my standard process would be to generate some form of label that would be attached to the material that would then drive my next transaction. So in this case, because we're putting away into a EWM warehouse and storage location, the next thing that I'll do is get the warehouse task and or warehouse order that I want to that has been generated from this put away, and use that to drive the put away process. So coming out of the receiving, I will go into the menu option for EWM put away. And here I have another search screen that would allow me to search by a number of different criteria. And again, kind of the most straightforward thing would be to enter the warehouse order number. I can also just go by user ID if that's been assigned to me, or a queue if the labor management process for these warehouse tasks includes adding them to a queue and having the user select all the putaways or transactions from their queue. I could utilize that. I could utilize the material document number as well that we just generated. But in this case, I'll just go ahead and use the warehouse order number, which I can see in my warehouse monitor that number is 2001516. Again, we might have that printed on a label in a real implementation, and then we could just scan that label with the number. So I'll do a start or a search here, and then come up with that warehouse order and task number, and there's my quantity of 10 and the material, the warehouse order that was generated, and that it's still open, and I can see my destination that it's going to. So the tasks on this order would be sequenced in the destination put away sequence for put away purposes, but I could sort them in other ways as needed. So I'll go ahead and click on this task and start the process for put away. So what we're requiring in kind of the base template is that I have to validate the quantity that's being put away, and that I have to confirm the destination bin. And so the quantity that we were putting away, I could do a partial, and that would split the warehouse task into another task for the remaining quantity and leave that outstanding. In this case, I'll go ahead and just put the full quantity in. And then the destination bin. And so here, it's assumed that I'm physically at the destination bin, and I'm going to go ahead and scan the barcode on that destination bin. This one's going to bulk, so I'll just go ahead and scan my bulk barcode there. And then save that transaction, which will confirm the put away task. Now my task is confirmed, and I've completed the process of receiving, from a purchase order, creating a warehouse order that happened in the S4 background, and confirming the warehouse order and warehouse task associated with that material. And from this point, I can just return back to my start menu and process another PO or do another transaction. So that's a kind of a quick walkthrough of the application. As you can see, there are many other tiles and functions available. They all kind of drive in a similar fashion, but this was kind of a quick overview of a PO receipt into an EWM controlled warehouse. Thanks for listening.
Okay, so that's kind of a good overview of what we've built. I saw a couple questions come in while Scott was talking. So the solution is for IM, WM, EWM, and SRM for those that want to use WM functionality inside of S4. That's an option for you as well. So our transactions support all those things. You know, before we built the solution that Scott demoed for you, we did a lot of research. We talked to a lot of customers and tried to understand the challenges they were experiencing and what they wanted to get solved for the field-based mobile solutions that they had. And with ITS Mobile and SAP Console, which have been around since the 1990s and early 2000s, they came back and said the screen layouts were really designed for the GUI. They were function key based. We had to teach our people transaction codes to be able to function and execute these transactions on the devices. And they really struggled with that. And when Damien talked about the transitioning workforce, right? So we're losing people that have 20, 30 years of knowledge. They're starting to retire, walk out the door. Having to understand what function keys mean and what T codes mean is painful for new people coming through the door. So we try to overcome that. We heard about connection handling, whether it's little blips in the Wi-Fi network inside the warehouse, or the need to work out in a storage yard. For utility companies, oil and gas companies, that's a big thing. For people that maybe work offline for days or weeks at a time, that was a shortcoming of ITS Mobile and SAP Console as well. So we wanted to account for that. Poor response time, security holes, which I've got a case study to talk about here in a minute. These are all the things that kind of drove us to come up with a solution which solved a lot of these problems for you guys, for our customers. So what we did is we tried to build a mobile-first UX. So taking our experience at Cyclo and at SAP, and instead of functioning or focusing on function keys and T codes, we focused on natural language and words and icons to guide users through transactions. So if you need to do a PO receipt, it's pretty obvious what you need to do to start that transaction in our application. We built it in a way that it can respond to the different device types you put it on. So if you've got it on a handheld, which you see in the picture here, it's one size. If you put it on a tablet, we take advantage of the additional real estate. We can run on wrist mounts, truck mounts, smaller tablets. You know, you choose what device you want it running on. Same code base, same application is going to run across all the different device types and take advantage of the peripherals that are built into those devices, scanners, RFID readers, things like that. We built it in a way that's high performance, so it's real time to the back end. If you need offline, we have that embedded in here as well. Takes care of the security challenges that a lot of ITS Mobile and SAP Console customers are starting to experience. And it's native SAP technology from start to finish, which I'll talk about more here in a moment. So, and it's built with technology that is the same technology used to build the GUI screens for S4 for those that are moving there in the next few years. So the functionality, I mentioned it's IM, WM, EWM, and SRM, but we've hit on all the different categories: receiving, put away, cycle counts, physical inventory, you name it, all the SAP processes that you're handling in your finished goods, raw goods, MRO, inventories, we've got it covered in pre-built templates, pre-built transactions to address all those areas. Now, why would you do this versus, other solutions, ITS Mobile, SAP Console, Fiori? There's some Fiori apps out there that you could use. The real idea here is we come with these templates, they're pre-built, they're mobile ready, they're really focused on that mobile UX and how people do their job in a warehouse of some kind. No license costs, which is an important cost component. The cost associated with the solution is a one-time fee where we come in, we do a gap analysis. We look at how you do business, we compare that to how our templates work, and then we build in those changes that would be required to make our application work within your specific business needs. You can run it at multiple sites, unlimited users. It supports all the languages that you would come to expect in an SAP solution through the standard language files that are available through SAP. Uses SAP native technology. Somebody asked that question here in the chat. So it's UI5 on the client side, OData in the integration layer, and ABAP objects, which are all pre-built for the transactions that are supported on the client side. For you guys, it's online first. So if you're connected to a network, it's using online to connect in real time. If you need to work offline, so if you're in a yard, if you lose Wi-Fi connectivity inside your warehouse, you can keep working. And we collect the data, allow people to interact with it as though they're not disconnected from the network. And when they come back into coverage, we can send the data up in two ways. We can either send it all at once, invisible to the user, so when they come back online, it just automatically syncs, or we can queue it up, allow them to go through a list of items they've collected or manipulated during the outage time, and they can decide what to send up. If they want to change something, they can make a change in real time in that queue and then send it up after that change is made. So a lot of flexibility on the offline side of things. And obviously we hit on the whole security component using the SAP security protocols that are in place in your systems today. And to Andres's point earlier, the application has been certified on more than a dozen Zebra devices. So whatever you need to use, whether it's a wrist mount, a truck mount, or anything in between, the application's already been certified to work on those devices. So I think we have a couple polls coming up here. This first one's for finished goods inventory, and got a couple polls, and I'll wait and tailor. So first question here, what tools are you using today to manage finished goods? And it's multiple choice, so if there's lots of things you're using, which we see pretty commonly, I'd go ahead and choose all that apply, and I'll wait here for you to respond and try to tailor the messaging accordingly. All right, let's see what we have here. So some third-party people, okay. Some Fiori, and I would guess maybe some console and ITS mobile. I may have clicked too quickly. I've got one more poll here. So this one is, what challenges are you experiencing with your mobile solution? So some of the things I mentioned in that slide straight after Scott's demo, are any of those things impacting you and your operation? Once again, select all that may be appropriate. Okay, so connectivity issues, pretty common, and need offline is a common thing as well. So moving on, I'll try to pick up the pace a little bit. So finished goods, inventory challenges. These are just things we've heard in addition to the bullets we went through earlier. We've got ITS Mobile and SAP Console, we kind of hit that already. It's DOS-based, function key-based, difficult to work with. We've got customers with third-party systems, and the third-party systems pose their own set of problems where we've got synchronization between two databases, end of month, end of quarter, end of year. Financial reconciliation can be a challenge sometimes with those systems. You need a separate team outside of your SAP folks to maintain and manage those systems. We've got antiquated hardware. I think we've got a pager and a BlackBerry on the screen, probably not that old, but kind of that old. We've got some old DOS-based devices in the marketplace that are getting refreshed at a pretty rapid pace. Talked about the aging workforce and security, which I'll get into here in one of the next case studies. So this case study, it was for a global gaming company that we worked with. They do lottery tickets and gaming equipment, so slot machines, things like that. Their board of directors, obviously very security conscious, had a survey done, an analysis of their entire IT infrastructure. And the company came back and said the biggest hole in your systems are in the warehouse. Through this ITS Mobile SAP Console solution you've got running and have had running for years, they came to the operations people and the IT folks and said, you've got 6 months to get this fixed. This is a major problem for us. We've got to get it sorted. In addition, they also had transactions that no longer functioned. They had new transactions they wanted to deploy, which they couldn't. And they had bought, I think, $2 million worth of RF hardware that they couldn't get the SAP Console solution or ITS Mobile to run on, sitting in their warehouse collecting dust. So they brought us in. We took our templates, identified which transactions they wanted to go forward with, which new ones they wanted to add, put that all together, deployed it in, I think, 5.5 months. We finished, and they were able to leverage all the equipment they had purchased previously. And they had bought a variety. So they had handhelds, truck mounts, they had wrist mount devices that they wanted to run the application on. And we were able to allow them to do all that and then close that security hole, most importantly, and allow them to move forward. So this is the finished goods example. We'll move on to MRO at this point. Got one more poll. So the question is pretty simple. Are you using a solution today to manage MRO? And this, generally ITS Mobile, SAP Console could be a third-party solution. Just have something besides paper and pen. Okay, so 50% not using it, not uncommon. This was a poll I think was done by the Peerless Group, and they asked a group of folks, what are the most common problems with your parts inventory? Downtime was the biggest one, obviously tied with the second one on the list there, but downtime's a pretty big issue for a lot of our customers. 94% of the people that responded to this survey said that MRO is extremely or somewhat important to their company's overall operations. What you'll see on the next slide is kind of counterintuitive. So 64% of those same people said that they were using manual or limited automation for their MRO inventory. So that means paper and pencil, that means Excel spreadsheets, Access databases, maybe third-party online solution that somebody found and wanted to tinker with, but they're just not integrated into their SAP system. And it's kind of shocking when you consider that 40% of an annual procurement budget can be used on MRO-based inventory. So that is a ton of cash. Can be in the tens of millions of dollars for larger organizations. Automating this process, getting a solution in place is super critical. And the payback is definitely there. So you've got a small utility that we did a few years ago. And this is just a pretty small example, a few warehouses. They were able to eliminate 2 data entry roles at one warehouse. They repositioned those people in open roles elsewhere in the company. So they basically reduced the need to bring 2 more people onto their payroll. So they moved the 2 people from the warehouse into the back office. And then they assumed a bunch of additional efficiencies in how they did things in the warehouse, savings in inventory overstock and things like that. And they saved about $800,000 over their 4 storerooms annually. And that just keeps adding up, right? That's $800,000 a year. So that's $8 million in 10 years' time that they saved just with this small system for this small utility. So if you've got a large MRO inventory, those numbers get even bigger. So that is my piece, Damien. I will, at this point, hand it back over to you to wrap things up and get us in Q&A mode.
Sure, I've got one last poll I'll leave for those of you on here. But there are a few questions on here, right? So let's see here. What mobile technology you used to develop this EWM app? I think you clicked on that one. You said EWM, IM, WM, as well as stockroom management. So enterprise browser, she said, I saw the laydown yard manager. Is that an SAP solution or something else?
It's a transaction that is used by many in the utility space that we've built and kind of standardized. And we can use enterprise browser. There's a few of them out there. There's one from Avanti. Zebra has one as well. So the transactions can be consumed through a native app, so an Android-based app, iOS-based app. It can go through an enterprise browser. You choose how you want to consume it. If you wanted to run it on a desktop, if somebody in the back office needed to open it up, you can run it in a Windows environment as well.
All right. Next question from Sean. With our MRT stuff, how are customized transactions handled?
Yeah, so those are generally handled similarly to how we extend the template to meet a specific business need. So in that case, and we do this for almost every customer, they've got a special transaction that is specific to their business unit. A lot of our life science companies kind of fall in this category. We basically meet with you, document what the business requirement is. We identify how we want that to flow from a mobile standpoint to make sure we've made it as simple, easy, and intuitive as possible. And then we use the UI5 framework to build out the UI for the user. And then we create whatever add-ons we need. If we need to add additional data to the BOPIs that we have, we just extend the BOPIs that we use as standard and connect those to the UI through OData services. So it's a standard process, not uncommon, happens on probably every project we work on. There's some kind of a custom transaction we have to deploy.
All right, so next question here. Are your mobile solutions using native mobile apps via Xcode for iOS?
So we do not. So we generally will use a tool like Cordova to wrap the HTML and the libraries, package that up and distribute it through an app store. If you've got an internal app store, we can do branded clients where we can sideload them onto devices, but no, it's not like Xcode or Swift development for the client. It's UI5 development, then wrapped and distributed through, whatever tool you want to use, Mobile Iron, and there's lots of them out there to distribute the app.
Okay. Does this only work with Zebra? I guess, Andres, cover your ears. Does this only work with Zebra? Would it work with, other operating systems?
It does, yeah. It works with Windows, iOS, Android, and different hardware types as well. The only thing I would say is that Zebra is the market leader, as you saw in that one of those slides earlier. There's other players in the marketplace, but they own it in the rugged space in particular. When you get extreme heat, extreme cold, extreme sunlight, having a Zebra device to work with is generally preferred over a consumer grade device, but it will run on whatever you have. And it's pretty common, and Andres would confirm this, that many customers have a mixed device distribution. So some people use their iPhone to work, while your dedicated asset engineers, inventory people would use a ruggedized device like a Zebra device.
All right. More questions here. So this simply just says goods issues to WBS elements and an internal orders question mark.
Yes, it does support that.
Okay. All right. What happens with S/4HANA feature packs and support packs? Would this solution still work?
Yes, yeah, it actually sits in your SAP environment, whether that's private cloud or on-premise, whatever your makeup is. It's built with SAP technology sitting in your environment. Generally, when people move, and we've had customers move from ECC to S4, we go through a full regression test of the application just to make sure everything's going to work as planned. It's the same as you would do with any other application like this. You need to test whenever you apply patches or you're doing an upgrade or anything like that, just to make sure we haven't broken anything. The good news about especially the IM and WM stuff, those technical objects have been around since probably the 80s, late 80s and 90s, haven't changed much over time, so they really don't get impacted by things. SAP is pretty sensitive to the fact that they don't want to impact the core. They want to keep the core clean. Yes, we do. Yeah, there's a annual support package that we offer as part of our solution. It's called our Priority Customer Assistance Program. It basically gives you SLAs. It gives you I'll call it a bucket of time to use for hotline support, for minor enhancements, things like that. We can get into more information on that if you want to set up a call with Damien separately. They are, yeah, the mobile apps aren't certified directly, but they are built obviously within the SAP tool set. So they work with all the standard things that are in place right now with SAP.
Here, just quick hits here.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Just want to thank you. For today, right? We talked about the business case around going to mobile, right? And certainly with those use cases or those studies from Gartner and Ventana and others, right? Like there's a huge ROI to modernizing your business case. You got to hear from Andreas here talking about some of the really big trends that are happening with demographic trends that are happening in the ecosystem, getting input from the end users as well as leaders and kind of bringing that together and seeing what that looks like. And then you got to see a sneak peek of our mobile inventory templates, what the value prop is, how that solves the existing pain points with legacy SAP mobile tools like Console, ITS Mobile, and Fiori. And then Steve covered some of the value of mobile in these inventory applications of the business with some customer stories and so forth. So I'll deal with one last question here, Steve, and then we'll close out. The question is this a PaaS solution with a one-time cost to host within our platform?
No, so it's not a platform as a service. It's pre-built templates that get loaded into your environment. We've got a group of transports that get loaded into your environment. And then once we finish the project, the application, the code base is yours to do with what you like. Many customers, will use our support solution to have us help them manage the solution going forward, but some will actually use us for the first year. And then if they've got Fiori-based people on staff, will actually take over support, and you've got full access to the code base at that point. So the one-time cost is simply to bring our templates, install them in your system, configure it to your business requirements, and then if you take over support, the code is yours to work in as you see fit.
All right. Well, everybody, good luck in modernizing your warehouse. If we can do anything to help, please don't hesitate to reach out. Make it a great rest of the day, and thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. You'll receive that post-event email tomorrow with the link to the on-demand recording. Please feel free to share it. And have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much.